Ahoy YouTube, it's Professor Mimi from Card Fight Crash Course, and I am back with another how to play video, partly by viewer request, partly because I actually had a lot of fun with it. This is for SweetLinker, Vraty, and I've noticed that when playing her, a lot of the difference between how the deck was performing wasn't necessarily what cards I put into it, but how I played it. So I felt it appropriate to do a how to play video instead of a deck tech, especially considering I didn't feel like I solved the list or anything, but I do feel like I made leaps and bounds with how I was playing the deck, and I thought it performed pretty well. We were doing some proxy testing against the new Magnolia, and through a lot of luck and perseverance, we were able to win. I don't know if we were supposed to win that consistently, but hey, this deck is good enough to beat the new hotness sometimes. So that's pretty cute, especially considering it's almost a budget deck. Aside from one or two cards we'll get into, all of these cards are very affordable. They're super cute. Like, look at Hamstera. She's so cute. This deck is a load of fun if you like healing, and who doesn't like healing? These cards are new and unplayed, so I'm not going to spend too much time going over all of them, but I'm going to give you just enough so that if you've never seen these cards before, you can kind of understand what I'm talking about. This deck is built around the SweetLink mechanic. All of these SweetLinkers, except for the starter, have the ability SweetLink, where if there is another card in the soul with the same card name as them, they enter the SweetLink state. So if you have another copy of Vraty in your soul, because you Persona Ride or something, that puts Vraty in the SweetLink state because there's another copy of her in the soul. That doesn't mean all of your units are in SweetLink state, it just means just Vraty is in the SweetLink state if we call her. She is not in the SweetLink state until we get another copy of her in the soul, which our ride line can help us do. Our grade 1 adds SweetLinkers from the top 7. One of them goes to our hand and one of them goes to our soul. Our grade 2 lets us call a card from our hand to rearguard, and then when we call it, we search our deck for a card with the same card name as that card, put it in our soul, and then draw one. So assuming we have enough SweetLinkers in our deck, our ride line is a +2 and sets us up for a heal, considering that Vraty has a skill that lets us counterblast 1 at the end of our turn to return 6 different named SweetLinker units to our deck, and then we recover 1 damage, regardless of damage count. So if our ride line gives us 3, our grade 1 adds us 1 to our soul, and then our grade 2 adds us another 1. If the card we call with that adds another card to our soul, then that adds us 6 names in soul very quickly, which takes our ride line almost to like a +3 ride line because it kind of comes with a free heal, which is super cute. But healing is not a winning image. You cannot just sit there and heal and expect to win unless your opponent is like decking themselves out super fast, which is actually how I beat Magnolia. They drew too many cards. I couldn't kill them, but they drew too many cards, and they mill themselves too, which is funny. So healing can be a win condition, but it's not the healing that's a win condition, it's your opponent decking out that's your real win condition. And that's not consistent enough, because not all decks are going to deck out at the same speed. The best defense is a good offense, and this deck might seem defensive with its ability to heal every turn, but that isn't backed up by a substantial amount of advantage or shield anywhere in the deck. Most of the cards in our deck do not provide us with much advantage. Our wonderful triple rare support friend, SweetLinker recur, however you pronounce it, she is our main source of advantage, and she's where all of our energy is going to go. When she's placed, lets us energy blast 3. Well, before you energy blast her, you take a card from your drop zone and put it into your soul for free. Then you can Energy Blast 3 to search the top 5 cards of your deck and call something that's you could normal call, so it's the same game as your Vanguard or less. So you can even call another copy of her. You can call most of your other SweetLinker girls. If you're at grade 3, you can call Vraty. All the same tricks you can do with Strega and whatnot, where you can recruit them to your board, and then our budget breaker, Eureka here, I'm sorry, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Eureka can then combo with that we can call a Perfect Guard or Persona Ride, and then use Eureka to return it to our hand. And we can also use Eureka to return Recur to our hand, so that we can use this as a repeatable engine, and that's how we're just going to use all of our energy for the whole game on her. And that gives us a consistent extra +1 every turn, but the rest of the SweetLinker girls do not provide much in the way of additional advantage. But they all, aside from our Persona Ride, have a relatively low grade, so they can all be used to fill up our board. These are all the SweetLinkers, except for, of course, the Ride line, and we are maxed out on all of them. We're playing a playset of every SweetLinker that is not one of the Ride line cards. Of course, we have all of our Persona Rides. And none of these other ones provide real advantage. This one allows you to move it to the soul to countercharge, and then if it's in a SweetLink state, the unit in front of it gets +5 all the time, which is neat. But the countercharge itself isn't inherently a plus. In fact, you go -1 to countercharge 1. So if you use that CB just to go +1, you end up being card neutral. This girl here, the grade 2, Sucre, she can, like any of the other floaters in Vanguard, she moves to your soul and draws you a card. And then if she gets +5, and then she can be the SweetLink state to get extra 5s. But if she goes to the soul to draw you a card, that's not actually advantage, because you lost a card on your board. And then, yeah, you drew a card, so you have the same number of cards in rotation, but that's not advantage. This grade 2, the rare Uitina, has an effect that lets you, when she's placed on a rear guard or Guardian Circle, she can move a SweetLinker to our soul, which is pretty good for our Vanguard. That's like a 1/6 of a heal, you know, like if these effects are slightly better than what they at first appear, because each time you resolve one, that's like a 1/6 of a heal. So it's not just a cantrip. You get that little bit closer to healing. So we get a tiny form of advantage, but a 1/6 of a heal is not gonna make or break a lot of situations. The last SweetLinker, and the one that I had been considering removing, but I genuinely couldn't find anything I wanted to play anymore, was the grade 1 common Pekerne, I guess. When you discard her, she goes to your soul, which helps you with the everything. So again, I said your ride line gets you 3 in soul, and then that gets you a 4th, she gets you a 5th, and then if you pitch this to ride up, that gets you 6 in soul, like off the bat, and then you have your heal all set up. We'll get into why you don't want to do it just like that in a minute. But with all of these names combined, we have a decent suite of options. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main deck SweetLinkers, plus Vraty for 6. So we can have 6 different names in our deck without the ride line pieces being involved. And that allows us to relatively consistently heal. I was able to, almost every turn I was playing this deck, heal 1 damage. Of course, not every time. Sometimes you can't get all the names and I would get stuck on 4 or 5. But it became a lot more consistent at healing once I changed my philosophy on how I was using the ride line. But we'll cover that in just a minute. For now, as you can see, all of these cards, including our last unit card over here, Pressure, are less than grade 3. And our deck while it might heal a lot, and that might make you think that we're really good at, we might be like a protect deck, we don't actually play like a protect deck. The heal just kind of allows us to finesse some extra shield that we may or may not have, especially because we kind of don't have it. Our cards do not get us too much in the way of plussing, so we have to be very mindful with our blocks and convert that to advantage. Our winning image is by using our no guards to build up enough counterblast for a big push, and then using the fact that SweetLinker Vraty buffs our entire board by 5k if she's in the SweetLink state. So as we ride up, we want to have, this is the beginning of our winning image. We have Yuika plus recur in a column together to generate us a extra piece of advantage every turn. We put this down, we pick it up, we pick it down, we put it up and down and up and down and up and down, so that we can consistently use all of our energy every turn to fill up our extra slots here. And considering our rear guards are low grades, we can consistently build up a tri-lane and start pressuring them early. And then when we ride to grade 3, even straight off rip, since we know we can heal, we can be relatively liberal with our use of no guards. We should block the easy swings, but anything that's kind of more than a 1-card block, you can say no guard, and then it's kind of profitable. You can use your easy 1-card blocks, and then they swing for like 23 with their Vanguard on grade 2 turn. You just take that. Because then if you have 3 counterblast, 1, 2, 3, we can do something pretty cute. So part of the winning image here is after our initial turn, or our turn 2, we use Yuika, we return her to our hand. So now when we ride from our grade 2 to our grade 3 SweetLinker Vraty, that'll trigger our grade 2's skill when rode upon. We call a card from our hand to rearguard, then we search our deck for a card and put it into our soul. As we were mulliganing and whatnot throughout the game, hopefully we found a copy of our grade 3, which we can pitch to ride. Then this on place skill will allow it to move to our soul to put Vraty in the SweetLink state early on in the game. When Vraty's in the SweetLink state, when we go into our battle phase, all of our rear guards are going to get a 5k buff. So if we get lucky enough, we can get 2 Rikuris here. Combo Rikuri with the countercharger. So the countercharger can make it work if we even are short one of these for short a damage, and I'll show you how. So as we enter our battle phase, SweetLinker Vraty will trigger, and she allows us to soul charge 1, and then based off of whatever card we soul charged, different things happen. And statistically speaking, especially later on in the game, we will be soul charging normal units, because as we use Vraty to return the SweetLinkers to our deck, where as we put back 6 non-trigger units, our deck will be less and less likely to have triggers. So when we do the soul charge, we are not very likely to hit a trigger as we go on. If you do hit a trigger, she gets a crit, and your whole front row gains +5, which will be very helpful with these swings. But if you hit a normal unit, which you usually do, she gains 10,000 power and a drive check. So then you'll get to check like 4 cards for a trigger, and once you've done that much, you are relatively likely to hit a trigger in 4 cards. You can probably find something. But if you do hit a trigger, it's nice because these get buffed. And don't forget, when she is, part of the reason we called her off of our grade 2 is because now she is in the SweetLink state. When Rikuri is in the SweetLink state and she calls something, she gets 5k, and the card she called gets 5k. So for this example, we're going to pretend that both Rikuris got the +5. So you attack with your first Rikuri. Our Vanguard, being in the SweetLink state, buffs her by 5. She buffs herself by 5, so she's 20 on her own. If you soul charged a trigger with Vraty, she's 25 already off rip. That's pretty good. If we have been able to put her in the SweetLink state by having one get into our soul through our ride line or something, then she'll be buffing that Rikuri in front of her, so she can be 25 or 30. Then when Vraty attacks, recur lets us counterblast 1 to stand up and gain +5. Does she have to be in SweetLink to get +5? No, she just gains the +5. So our Vanguard gets big, swinging in for 23 plus triple drive. And then we get to attack again for, it was 25 or 30 this time, plus an 18k boost. So this can be 43 or 48. Then we can use Eureka to, if we soul charge something random, like this pressure here, we soul blast it and pick it up. So it's waiting in our hand for next turn. And then the other recur attacks for 48 or, actually this doesn't get the 5k. So it also ends up being 43, 48. And then at the end of the battle, we just push this into our soul, countercharge 1. And then at the end of our turn, Vraty triggers, we counterblast 1. We return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 names to our deck, and we recover 1 damage. So after exerting all of that pressure, with 5 attacks, most of them not being 1-card blocks, we're at 1 damage. And our opponent could be at 4 or 5. And then with a big damage lead like that, you're able to pretty comfortably say no guard to one of their Persona Ride turns. Unfortunately, you might not have Persona Ride after pitching Vraty to get that SweetLink state early. So try and be mindful if you would like to have a Persona Ride buff, or if you just want to keep this, if you want to have that, because you'll have a slightly larger power buff on turn 3, or on turn 4 when you Persona Ride, but on the turn where you initially ride up to Vraty, you might not be able to push them very hard because you're like going to swing for like 10 on the side lane, maybe 15 maybe, because it got the SweetLink. And that 5k poke is fine, but you really want to be making them use a 10k shield, because a lot of decks don't have 10k shields. So 10k gets to be a decent break point. 15, of course, is best, but 5k is not where you want to be in life. So the plus 5k a turn earlier can really add up and can help it make it so that they go up to that higher damage count. So that if you, like, maybe you don't put the SweetLink in soul early, and that puts you for Vraty early, and that lets you be in a position where your opponent can very comfortably guard a lot of your swings. So they might only be at like 3, and if your Persona Ride might not kill them if they're at 3, especially considering even if they were the cards that they used to block that were all like 5ks, still have lots of real shield left in their hand to block your other swings. So you just need to be careful, especially considering you might not always have access to 2 of the restanders, considering we are gonna sort of anti-thin our deck 1, because on our turn 2 when we call this and we send 1 to soul, there's now only 2 left in our deck, so we're not quite that likely to find it. And we will find 1 over the course of the game eventually, but if like we can only protect 1 with Eureka, and this other one, they might not attack it, because they're like, oh my gosh, you're just going to keep healing, I have to just keep running down at your face. But if they leave this on board, that's bad for them. A lot of players won't contest it, but if they do, you're kind of in a spot of bother, because then you go back to, if you're down 1, then you got that second one, now there's only 1 left in your deck. Oh my gosh. I mean, not for long, you know, you place her again, you put her in soul, put yourself back in SweetLink, use Vraty, shuffle her back. But it's not going to be the most consistent thing in the world. Now, as for what I was saying about the ride line, I've noticed that as the game progresses, you end up with a decent amount of the names in your soul. And at first, my Vanguard instincts were telling me, hey, it's probably a bad idea for you to try to anti-thin your deck by 6 cards so quickly. So you should probably lead on your ride line pieces so they don't clog up your deck. Or says your deck isn't as clogged. But that ended, when I did that, that would lead to those games where I get stuck, unable to properly heal every turn. But if I kind of use the ride line to fill in for missing names, then it works way better, right? So we have, these aren't part of it, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then our persona rides make 6 different names. So we don't need our ride line in rotation in order to heal. But let's say we're doing our combo here and we put that Vraty into our soul and we don't have a persona ride set up. Instead of returning that Vraty to our deck, we can leave it in soul and just substitute one of these. You know, like as we rode up, we just never found like this girl or something. Then we can have our starter substitute in for them. And then we can save that grade like 1 or 2 so that on our next turn, we do our damage disc, we try and get as many cards in our soul as possible, but then we just end up 1 card short. Like, that's only 5 names. But hey, we still have that last one soul, and she'll make 6, and then bam, you get that heal off. So you're able to much more consistently get the heal by saving your use of the ride line cards until later. I don't want to get too much into the way we have our, or what we're doing with our non-SweetLinker slots, because they're not too important. A lot of people are playing Volifer here because Volifer will let you soul charge 1, and then we don't have, like, yeah, you saw us use our CB for our restanders, but like I said, it's not always that likely. We have our restander, we have this extra counter charge here, and Vraty, well, she costs a counter, she recovers one, so it's kind of free in a way. So we need a counterblast outlet, and Volifer lets you on place soul charge 1, counterblast 1, draw. Those 2 aren't necessarily related. And then since we have our Vanguard will be in our soul, Volifer will get an additional 5k. So she kind of like has synergy with our deck and a lot of what we want to do, because then we'll put a card in our soul that we can soul blast with Eureka. So we're not soul blasting one of our names, because you don't really want to be soul blasting one of your names, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. Sometimes you can just end up with extra names or extra ways to get your cards in soul. So Eureka's soul blasting a name early isn't usually that big of a deal. And I found that if you look at our board here, or how I've set up this little representation of our deck, we have a full front row. We have a playset of a card for one front row, a playset that wants to be in another front row, a playset that wants to be in one back row, almost a playset that wants to be in one back row, a playset of cards that we want to discard, a playset of cards we want to guard with or call, so we have a relatively full front row. And if we wanted to put this slot onto our board with Volifer, that makes it so that we have 15 cards to put in our front row, which is a little too many, even if we're not. That just kind of prevents her from ever being placed in the front row, and she's really good for blocking, because like you can, when you guard with her, then you can just get a little more soul. So when you block with her, you get a sixth of a plus. Yippee! But it all that adds up. Like that gets you a card in soul. This gets you a card in soul. Everything slowly accrues that soul, and it'll all add up. But Volifer doesn't quite fit into this board setup, so I was trying to play Pressure in this slot instead, but like I said, all of our energy is going to this, so I committed to just using Pressure's Counter Blast to draw the card, not the Energy Blast, the Counter Blast to draw the card, because we have extra Counter Blast and all of our energies being hogged up by recur. And then the last card I just put in was Protection Twin Cast. According to some of the data analysis I've been doing, it's one of, if not the best Regalis pieces with its win rate. However, I could totally see you playing the one and only Fire Regalis TMCR, because our deck is trying to recruit all these rear guards and we need to get our names in rotation. So there's a really good argument for playing that. And I was thinking about it before I started recording, but honestly, the Cup, Gradius Gradale or whatever, that card could be pretty clutch because we don't have any normal orders anywhere, so it's not conflicting with anything. And like I told you, our winning image is kind of find Vraty, pitch Vraty, put Vraty in soul, get to SweetLink early, and now we're only going to have 2 Persona rides left in our deck. And yeah, we churn through a decent number of cards, but that means we're not going to be very likely to have that turn 4 power spike or Persona ride if we're putting one in soul. But if we have a play set of Persona rides and we have the Gradius Gradale, then we might be in a better spot. So that could be up to you. I would recommend trying all 3 Regalis pieces if you have the time. They all seem decent. I'm not going to tell you any of them are right or wrong. You could try experimenting with the grade 1 that when you pitch her moves to soul, because she has a SweetLink skill where, this might be a little strange, but if she enters the SweetLink state in soul, because the SweetLink state is not zone restricted, it's a SweetLink state anywhere. So if there's just one in soul, her SweetLink skill doesn't work, because it says if there is another card with the same card name as this unit in your soul. So if she's in your soul, obviously you don't have another. But if you have 2 of her in your soul, she has an effect where you can remove her from your soul and then take a SweetLinker from your drop zone and put it in, so it can like SweetLink fix you to get the cards in soul you want. I don't think I've ever done that. I think I ended up with 2 of her in soul once, and I just decided to leave her so that I could put 1 in soul this turn, and then I knew I would have another one of her in rotation for next turn. She seemed like low-key the least impactful, but I never thought of any card I would want to be playing instead, and she was helpful. You know, you just kind of need the names in order to heal, so I never had the desire to cut her. I felt like if you were trying to be really optimal, you could probably like shave one of her for something, and you can like shave a few names here and there to get away with some cuteness, but I wasn't quite sure. Some other tech you could be doing is maybe not playing Elementaria, so that all of your perfect guards are called by this, so that you can set this up. You could consider playing a 4th Eureka. I don't think that's necessarily good or bad. I just wanted to, I don't know, I felt like 4 was just a little too much, but I could, because then you end up with a situation where like you have your Eureka here that gets established, and as you draw your other Eurekas, you want to put them here because they're not really going to do much behind your Vanguard, but they're not going to do much in this lane either, because she kind of wants to be in both side lanes so that she can buff Vraty, because Vraty's kind of small. She also wants to buff your Restander. So she just gets kind of awkward in multiples, and so if there's a card I don't want to see multiples of, but I do want to see, I play 3 instead of 4, and all the other SweetLinkers, obviously, I would like to see lots of, so that's why we're maxed out on it. And then that's with the last slots that we had room left, I made room for the Regalis piece and whatnot. So if you, like, have a 4th Eureka so that you're more likely to see doubles, so that you can have 1 for her, and then 1 for something that she calls so that you can farm a perfect guard, then you could probably cut the Elementaria for a 4th normal perfect guard. The other triggers I played, I was playing a playset of the heals that get the extra shield, because we're doing a lot of no guarding early, so them having less shield early isn't a big deal, and we don't have that much shield or advantage. So it could come up as the format changes and we go into deep lands meta. You might want to shave some of these, go down to like 2, or depending on how infested your locals is with whatnot, you can tune them to be what you need it to be, but 4 is actually pretty chill. I'm playing 4 draw triggers. I have a fancy one here so that I can know which one was the 4th one, because as I mentioned, our deck doesn't have much in the way of natural advantage, so the draw triggers just help with that. I tried playing 8 fronts at one point just because it was funny. I have triple draw, it was spooky. I don't have much shield, so maybe that could come in handy, but like, I don't know, I haven't really felt the difference in the triggers too much, except for the soul front was cute, because you would block with the soul front early, and then Eureka was kind of like free, so you wouldn't mess up your SweetLink stuff. That was cute, kind of like that. The shield front was fine, but even though I was playing 4 draws, the 3 games I played at 4 draws, I checked like a singular draw trigger, so I don't know. It seems okay. I was relatively happy with the draws, but I was happy with the fronts. The trigger lineup is kind of whatever you want it to be. You can make it all work. And we just fill out the rest with 7 crits. We have Poppy Paw here and some Frameware crits, just because I felt like it. And then for your over trigger, low-key, you could be playing almost any of them. But I chose red because I'm trying to get better at playing around red. So it just helps keep my brain in red OT mode. When your Vanguard attacks, this will restand, so you should basically always have a restand target for the red OT, because you only get a skill to restand if you're already standing. It doesn't give it to a rested rearguard, because that kind of wouldn't make any sense. Vraty's kind of small, so you could try playing like yellow or blue or purple. I don't know, because purple, like sometimes if you already have double recur set up, then you get into an awkward situation where you can't stand both, or you can stand both, but then you check purple and then you don't have anywhere to call the extra unit other than it's like a booster. I'm like, yeah, an extra heal's fine, but we heal a lot already, so it's not that important. Blue could be cute just to get us back a perfect guard from our drop zone so we can play a little longer, because again, we don't have that much natural advantage. But red is fine. They're all fine. It's your over trigger. It doesn't come up every game. It very, very rarely comes up which over trigger you're playing, and it's kind of personal preference. If you're not going to play around red over trigger, then you probably shouldn't be playing it, especially early on in the game. You could be playing the lyrical over trigger because you do 5 attacks, and then you can blah blah blah. I personally would not play the lyrical over trigger, but that's just me. That's just me. And I'm a little freak. That covers all of our card choices here, without going into too much tech on everything. Just enough to touch up on all of them. Again, as we sequence our plays with our board setup, when you're doing your big turns, I know that the ride line is going to force you to call something from your hand, and we want to call recur, but we even on our other turns, even if we're not forced to call with her first, it can be important to lead with recur as our first call for the turn, so that we can see what we're going to recruit, so that with our hand we can decide what we need to fill with our board. Because like, imagine we do something really silly where we like, I don't know, we call her and we call her, and then we check the top 5 and we find a second copy of her, and then now what do we do? It just doesn't fit anywhere in our board. Whereas if we didn't shotgun calling cards from our hand, then we could just call her, go, oh, okay, we found her, that's great, I'll just fill in with this, and then bam, board set up. With a combination of her sending 1 to our soul every turn, because on place she'll send a card to our soul, and then if she recruits us something that can get us another card to our soul, that's 2 cards added to our soul with different names. She is a very decent alternative, because if we have her, she can add a name, or actually, I guess a good way of thinking about this is any card we're going to put in this front row circle, all of them are going to get us an additional card in soul, because on place she puts 1 in soul. On place, she puts 1 in soul. At the end of the battle, she attacks. She'll put 1 in soul, which you can do early, by the way. That's not grade restricted. So she's really good on like turn 2. You can call her and then float her immediately to start getting your names in soul. So our front row will consistently get us 2 in soul. If we block between turns, that gets us a 3rd in soul. Our countercharger can get us a 4th in soul. Our persona ride gets us a 5th in soul. So if we're efficiently looping through all of our skills, like, and as we ride up, we can send her in soul. So that'll make us 6. We get 1, 2, block for 3, this for 4, persona ride for 5, that for 6. And if, we didn't persona ride early, so that can fill in for a Vraty. Our ride line piece can. And we can very consistently get the heal off every turn, which is annoying more than anything. This deck wasn't the strongest deck I've ever played. It obviously didn't top the recent BCSs, but it's pretty fun, and it's really annoying. Your opponent will just they might just tilt, and part of Vanguard is the mental game. So if your opponent is tilted, they might make some strange plays and questionable decisions that you can be able to punish if you are sharp enough. So you just sit there and you just kind of annoy them while applying a nice amount of pressure. It's very easy to to set up something like this, where these getting their power gain isn't necessarily grade 3 restricted, because she'll get her +5 if you have a grade 3 Vanguard, so that's blah. But this, to give the unit in front of her +5, is not grade 3 restricted. So on our turn 2, it's pretty easy for us to like swing 10, swing 18, swing 23. So if our opponent's on a grade 1, they can be in a lot of trouble. If they're on a grade 2, even if they hit a defensive, this still hits over. We can pass trigger to this column, be threatening. Since we're not, you just swing with your Vanguard first if you're playing fronts, but if you're not playing fronts, you can still like swing 18, they have to guard it. Oh, they check a defensive trigger. This still spooks them and might make them waste shield. If they don't waste shield, they might get punished. And then this still, thanks to the +5 from this being in SweetLink, lets you hit 23 and hit over their defensive, which is pretty clutch, especially for trying to build up early advantage, because our advantage is going to be in our like damage lead per se, not really in our hand size. There's been games where I've got like a 4-card hand, but like 1 or 2 damage just because of how everything shakes out. And you can, even though you're at 2, you can still be in danger of dying, because in standard the end game numbers scale kind of crazy. They'll persona ride and then this and that, and their front row has like +20, and they attack you 5 times, so you need like 100,000 shield. You do not have that. You can say no guard 3 times, and you still need like 40k shield. You check no triggers on your triple drive. One other girls had 10k shield, other 2 girls 5k makes 20, and that last card you had was 1 trigger, and you're just like 5k short. And what? It's a little unfortunate. So you have to try to play aggressive. Healing is not a win con. It's not. Unless your opponent is playing one of those decks that decks out super fast, you have to play relatively aggressive in order to break through. We do not have a load of shield and whatnot. I don't know if you saw the Alcasol video last time, but I said in that deck that the best defense is a good offense, because that deck is an actual defense deck, but they would deck out. Vraty might not deck out, but you can run out of steam. You will run out of shield. It doesn't matter if you keep healing if you have no shield to actually back that up. So you need to be playing aggressive. You don't have a good defense, so the way we're going to actually have a good defense is by having a good offense. It's surprising how much pressure you can exert with your restanders on turn 3, especially if Vraty's in the SweetLink state, because this restand is not grade 3 restricted. Nothing on Vraty is grade 3 restricted. Your opponent being grade 3 restricted. I don't think there's any skills in this deck that are, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 restricted. Yuika's 5, sure. But other than that, everything else in your deck has a skill that works regardless of what grade your opponent's at. So you can start beating down pretty early, and then pivot from that beatdown into a nice mid game where you can comfortably recover, because you can swing with your triple drive, check a heal, then you actually heal with Vraty's skill and you just recover 2. So they push you to 3. You're like, okay, I'm gonna counter push you super hard and then just heal to 1, whatever. Try again next turn, bro. Good luck. And sometimes, it's enough, but sometimes it's not. It kind of depends on how well you pivot your guard. Low-key, the way I was playing Alcasol before helped me get even better with this deck, because it was keeping my blocks really sharp, because you don't have much shield to go around in this deck. Not very much at all. So you need to be very choosy with how you play your guard. It's very important that you make good decisions with your blocks. Don't waste things. Don't take attacks with extra crits if you can help it. Be very mindful, and this deck will reward you for having a good defensive game. It doesn't play defense, but you as the player can manage a good defense by being very mindful with your guards. I call it blocking profitably, where if you, as those turn cycles go, if you keep checking the hand size between both players, you can notice that as the turn goes on, you may or may not have like about the same number of cards. So if you can go through a turn cycle with like a similar amount of damage count and a similar amount of cards, that's what I call profitable blocking, where your card economy ends up at an advantage despite you having to use cards to block. Because you're going to get, you draw, you get your drives, and you do blah, blah, blah. And then your opponent's going to attack, obviously. And then you're going to have to respond to those with no guards or blocks. And if you can keep the economy of your cards functional by being very choosy with what you do and don't guard, then you can find that as the turns go through, you can keep about the same number of cards in rotation. Not just with this deck, but just like in general. This deck will reward you for having profitable blocks. So this will be a good way to practice that skill. But I think that covers just about everything I wanted to say. I think I probably rambled a bit too much. I feel like this probably should have been a 30-minute video, but here we are past the 40-minute mark. Sorry about that, but I hope you all enjoyed. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, somehow, thank you very much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you might or might not have liked it. So please press the button. It's shaped like a thumb. The like button adds this video to a playlist of sorts on YouTube, so it'll be easier to come back and find this video in the future. So liking is kind of like a form of bookmarking. So if you ever need to reference this video again, you should maybe like the video. If you liked this video, actually, then you might like the next one I do, and I will be doing my best to continue making videos like this every week. So press that subscribe button so that you can be notified when those new videos go live. I think that's about everything for me today. I covered all these things on my notes here, leading with your recruiter so you don't get things messed up, the ride line pieces being fill-ins for names instead of something you choose first. You want to choose your ride line names last and not first. Valifer is probably good. Precious, fine. The last slot can be what you want it to do, or your Regals piece, and Overtrigger are self-expression, we'll call it. Making sure to get the Vraty and Soul for the early SweetLink is very impactful. And making sure to get your value engine between Eureka and recur is central to everything. But I think that about sums everything up. Thank you all again so much for watching. It means a lot to me. I really mean that. Spread love, everyone, and be kind. Bye!